My guest today is Mario Lanzarotti. Mario, you are the founder of Aligned Founders, a global movement helping high performing men scale their businesses without sacrificing their peace, purpose, or relationships. You have coached over 2,000 founders in 15 countries, have built a multi six-figure coaching business, and you delivered a TEDx talk with nearly 3 million views on how to stop doubting yourself. Mario, welcome to the show. It's such a delight to have you with me today.
Agi, thank you so much for having me on your show, and I'm excited to dive into the conversation.
And so am I, and I'm looking forward to exploring with you building trust in ourselves and stop doubting ourselves. I know it is a big promise to make, but that will be, the main topic I want to discuss with you. Before I go there, and I will go there in a moment, but can you tell us briefly what was the turning point for you in your self doubt? I mean, to perceive it in the different way that led you afterwards to the talk and the work that you have done.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say this started when I began meditating, because until then I understood doubt as a voice of truth. So when doubt was telling me I'm not working hard enough, I'm not good enough, I tried to improve myself, like so many do. And so that led me down to a path of self improvement where I gained a lot of skills in communication, in organization, in planning, and that definitely helped. And it also got me to become more effective in the way that I work, and so I achieved more. But it was always very short lived because the doubt never stopped. And I was always left with, I don't feel good enough, I'm not doing enough. And it was always this voice of not enoughness, this voice of scarcity. And no matter how many goals I achieved, I sold my first business in New York, and I thought that after that, I must feel like the king of the world. And I didn't, very far from that. And so I began to question my solution to self doubt, because my solution to self doubt was just work harder, perform more, achieve more. And that just clearly didn't work. And then I started meditation. And in meditation, I learned to separate myself from the doubt. I learned to recognize that doubt is a part of me, but it's not who I am. And so, with that separation, I understood that I don't actually have to do what the doubt tells me to do. And that may sound like a small thing, but it was a huge breakthrough for me, because I realized that this is simply a voice inside of me. And that voice wants something, it has a need. And if I treat the voice like it's a part of me that simply wants something, then I can begin to understand that maybe that part of me isn't asking me to achieve more, but it's asking me to pay more attention, and specifically pay more loving attention. Because I started to do this simply by sitting, breathing, and just like putting my hand on my heart. And the moment I did that, the voice became really quiet, really quiet. And I was like, this is interesting. I'm not achieving more. I'm not doing more. I'm not working harder. I'm not doing anything, actually. I'm just sitting here, taking deep breaths, observing that voice, and putting my hand on my heart. And all of a sudden, the voice is getting quiet. And I was like, this is very interesting. So maybe this doubt isn't this bad, evil enemy that has been chasing me and telling me that I'm not good enough my whole life. Maybe this is something different. And that was the point where I started to ask myself, well, actually, what if doubt was a good thing? Because if I used doubt in the way that I just described to you, and I just sat more, meditated more, took deeper breaths, and basically was more compassionate with myself, then what's actually helping me do that? And it's the doubt that's helping me do that.
Thank you for this way that you shared the story, and I think the ability to separate, even for brief moments, from that the self-doubt in the case that you were describing, but from any stream of thinking that takes you in a way that you don't want to go. It is an ability that it's not a small thing to be able to see that, to separate yourself from that rather than identify with it. Let's talk about self-doubt. So you started already with self-doubt, and I would love to stay with that and discuss something that you talk about in your TED Talk, which, by the way, I will say also that it is, in my humble opinion, it is an outstanding talk. So I will, anyone watching us, I would definitely, and the link will be in the show notes, watch it. But there was something that I will start with, and you were talking about self-doubt having loneliness as its ally. So in other words, they go hand to hand. So self-doubt causes you to become lonely, and then loneliness feeds on self-doubt. So I would like to start with a comment, your comment on that, because I think it's important to understand that self-doubt is not something that affects only us.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Think about this. Every human being has self-doubt. The people that say they don't, they're usually afraid to admit it. And those are other deeper issues going on there. But every human being experiences self-doubt, and that's just a very normal thing that takes place. But the problem happens is when we pretend that we don't, and when we then make self-doubt to be this sign of weakness, this confirmation of weakness. And this happens, in my experience, more in men than in women. And when we don't share that, when we're not real about that, we isolate and we retreat. And you can be in a room with loving family, friends, spouse, children, and you can feel deeply alone. And that's not because you are alone, but that's because you isolate with a part of yourself. It's like there's this, like, imagine there's a corner in your psyche that you do not allow anyone to know that it's there. And so essentially you're only showing only showing a limited, reduced version of yourself, and you're saying about the rest of that version, that's not worthy of being seen, of being acknowledged, of really existing, actually. And so loneliness is always the result of that. And if you don't know that, then you're going to look for external measures. Then you're going to go, oh, my wife doesn't love me enough, my colleague doesn't praise me enough, my father doesn't appreciate me enough. You're going to start projecting it to your relationships because you don't know that you're carrying that on the inside, so you're looking for it on the outside. And that then causes all the problems in relationships, because now you distance yourself from people because you're looking to get something from another person that they cannot give you. And the sad part of it is it's completely unconscious, so you have no understanding that this is taking place, and you can't even do something about this. And this is what I see a lot happening in our society, is that we fear being singled out, being rejected for our inherent human vulnerability that, in this case, I call self-doubt.
Indeed, I like how you said it, a human vulnerability, and you say that in order to step out of this, or start, is to share that self-doubt, that piece of you that you have been possibly withholding from public views, to share it, but with someone who you trust, and you talk about sharing it with in a courageous way, because it, and from my experience, it does require a certain amount of courage to express something that is vulnerable, or that you feel might reveal a weakness of you, or might open you up to other people's judgments. I think you can understand where I'm going with that. So uh, talk to us about this sharing our self-doubt courageously.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because if you ask what people want, more or less people all give you the same answers. They want a good career, they want a healthy body, they want good relationships, maybe they want to travel, a nice house, a nice car. You know, these are things that every human being wants. But then you ask, why do you want that? And then you get deeper. And then people want these things because they provide them with a sense of safety, with a sense of peace, with a sense of happiness. And essentially, in essence, we all want internal experiences. And we just think that these external experiences are only possible through material or relational success in inherent ways that we control. But then when you look at it, all of the things that we desire, they are heart qualities. They all live inside the heart. And what I've seen is that even though we often attach ourselves to wanting the positive things in life, like I only want to feel happy, I only want to feel peace, I only want to feel joy, I only want to feel great about myself. That's not a human experience. It's just that's not life. And when we try to make that this way, we end up suffering more than actually intended. And what I've seen is the more you live in your heart, the less that actually matters. What I mean by that is when you live in your heart, you essentially live a more unfiltered experience of life. When you live in your heart, you can be fully present to sadness. And then what you are experiencing is actually aliveness, because aliveness is being present with what's taking place without labeling it good or bad. And when we live in our minds, we think, we rationalize, we put a strategy on everything, and that always leads to suffering. But then in the heart space, there's this place of like, I don't know what's going to happen, and it doesn't matter. I know what's here, and I know what's now, and I know what's alive. And courage is the gateway to that. When you doubt your capability to start your own business, I got it. All right, that's normal. Cool. And now what? Nothing changes. You can doubt that experience, and you can say, look, you know what? It doesn't matter. I live in my heart, and I will take a courageous step. And the courageous step might be you hiring a business coach, or you going to a seminar, or you handing in your 3 months notice at your job. Right? It could be so many things that are all dependent on you living in your heart space. And in your heart space, you act on faith. You say, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's okay. I will do what I need to do based on what's true for me in this moment right now. And when you're living inside of that, you're no longer held back by the conversation that takes place up here that so often overcomplicates your way of living life.
I'm stopping for a moment. I can see like a drilling sound in the
Let me
background. Is
fix it.
this?
Someone outside here in the building complex.
Oh,
Unfortunately, yeah, there's someone outside in the complex. And the windows are unfortunately very thin. I thought it was in the house, but it's not.
it sounds like it's right behind that wall.
Yeah, it's somewhere out there. I apologize.
It's
It's
alright.
not something I can
Yeah,
control,
that
unfortunately.
is something I know. I know, Mario. I have done many interviews, and I know when the guy decides that here it is cutting the grass. So sometimes they need to cut the grass, and they
Yeah.
never think of me that I want to have an interview. But the thing is that right now it is quite loud. So it is loud, I mean, in a distracting way. It takes away from your message.
Okay. Is there anything that we can do, like echo cancellation? Does that maybe help?
No, echo cancellation would be if we were not if we could hear echo.
Give me 1 second.
Sure. Thanks for
This
that.
is
I appreciate it.
particular in Africa. The people are like they don't get it. Like he's like, I was like, I'm in an interview, and he's like, okay, 1 more minute, 1 more minute. I'm like, now, bro, now. So you won't hear it again.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. I have actually done that as well. I went downstairs once and said, "Can you please come back and do that later? I will finish soon." So,
Yeah.
thanks for that.
Okay.
Great. So, I will have a sip of water and I will pick it up from its. Yeah.
I'm happy to answer the question again.
No, I don't remember what the question was.
Me neither, but like,
No. Do you remember what? No, it's okay. I got a little bit of that sound, that noise, but it was only probably a minute. So I will carry on from where we were. I don't want to repeat that. It was.
Thank you.
Okay. Mario, you, in your answer, you mentioned a few times live in your heart. Or there is perhaps some in some people some kind of lack of clarity on what that means. Of course, you gave some explanations with sitting with your emotion or with your self doubt, but what I wanted to ask more than that is practically for someone, and I would assume that most people listening are living in their head, at least perhaps not 100% of the time, but the majority of their time. And I will hold my hand up and I will say I am one of them. Honestly. However, living in the heart, it is in many ways, it is I personally see it as a spiritual evolution. I will use this phrase, but it doesn't matter how one calls it. It is a more, let's say, advantageous way of living. Certainly more at peace, more aligned with our true nature as beings, and so on. My question is, what can one do? You mentioned meditation. Let's say one does practices meditation. What is something else one can do to travel more into that journey from, as you say beautifully in your talk, the journey from the head to the heart? I hope my question is clear.
Yeah, totally. It's a great question.
Thanks.
I'd love to answer this. And before I answer, can you hear? Is it loud even when I'm speaking?
I can hear
Even
it
when I'm
again,
speaking,
yes.
test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, now it is not. I can't hear it anymore. I don't know if he's going to come back and restart.
He just went somewhere else in the complex.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
hoping that
So,
he's done now. But I'll answer the question now.
so you can answer. Yes.
Okay. So that's a great question, and what we have to understand about that is that old age saying, the mind thinks and the heart knows. And what that actually means is that when you live in the heart, you live in truth. And we all know ultimately what is true for ourselves. We know what we want. People often say this. It's like, oh, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. And I often challenge people and I say, I think you do know what you want. You're just too scared to own what you actually want. You know that you don't want to be in this career. You know that you don't want to work with these clients. You know that you don't want to be single. You know that you don't want to live in the UK in the cold weather and you want to move to Greece. You know that you already know. This is the attitude that we have to take when you come from a place of truth. You're now also living at the risk of losing your ego in your constructed self, the busy constructed way that you have to think that you have to live your life. Look, I have compassion for this because I've been through this many, 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 many times, and I'm going through it right now in many different ways because my mind is telling me go left and my heart is telling me go right. And the heart is very silent. It's very clear. It doesn't have to make a great bravado. It doesn't have to give me a drama, chaos. None of it. It's just saying you're supposed to go this way. And the mind then goes and creates all of these limitations, all of this. But what if this happens? What if I lose my job? What if I lose the approval of my family? What if no one likes me anymore? What if people cancel me online? Oh my God, oh my God. And the heart just keeps saying, hey, go right, keep going right. And so in order for one to make this transition as smooth as humanly possible, in my experience, is you have to slow down. If you don't slow down, nothing else matters because you're not going to hear it. And you're going to be caught up in the jungle of your mind, in the radio station that keeps telling you, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm not ready, it's too late. You're going to be caught up there. And so you have to slow yourself down. And that starts by taking deep breaths and by actually slowing down your movement. Literally, people think slowing down is like this complex style. There's this like, what do I have to do? Like, do I have to this is done the seminar? I'm like, no, walk slower, drink slower, eat slower, just move slower, slow down your speaking tone. All of these things help your body start to move into a peace response, right? Your nervous system starts to regulate, starts to slow down. And when that happens, you're going to be confronted with two things. You're going to be confronted with all of the stuff that you've been running from, which is the I'm not good enough. I've missed out on life. People don't like me. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. All of those limiting beliefs that we've been running away from, they're going to come up, and you're not going to like that. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Some anger will pop up. Some sadness will come up. Some guilt. Some shame. And when you sit through that, when you breathe through that, there's going to be peace. There's going to be clarity. And then you're going to get these intuitive moments of like, call Agi, ask him to be on his podcast, go book the ticket to Dubai, quit your job, buy that book, let go of that person. And it won't make sense in many cases because your mind will go, yeah, but. But the moment you follow it, you're building trust in the heart. And you do this day after day. Literally, this can be a daily practice. And over the next course of months, you've built so much trust in your heart that now you know this is a path for me that I can trust, and it's resulting in beneficial experiences in my life. So why wouldn't I just keep walking down that path?
Thank you. And I will only add to that when you have this kind of inspired thoughts or ideas or that come up or knowing that comes up, many times because it is, and again I will speak from my personal experience, because it is impractical to take action on them straight away at where you are. And because they can be subtle, they can be forgotten. I was keeping a diary of these kinds of thoughts so that then I can refer to those inspired ideas that I had. So I'm just adding that as something that helped me to keep track of them because they can be a lot.
That's a good one. That's a very practical one.
Mario, in facing self doubt and expressing our self doubt to others and all these things we have discussed so far, I want to add in the mix the element of self love, or as you said in your talk, to fill our cup, our self love tank. That's how you say it. So, explain to us also the relevance of that, and specifically with in terms of self doubt.
Yeah, that's a great one. So the way that I got to this is from what I shared earlier when I realized that if I stop running from self doubt and if I stop making it an enemy, and if instead I sit down, I take deep breaths, I place a hand on my heart, and I allow myself to actually feel what I haven't allowed myself to feel, that very act is an act of love. It's an act of love towards the self that I've been running from. Because the self that's creating the thoughts around, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm not ready, that's a part of myself that I've been abandoning, that I've been rejecting, that I've been denying. And it's so interesting. Once you do this work, you will understand. For instance, a lot of people have a fear of putting themselves out here, like doing a podcast, recording content, doing a TEDx talk, because they will say, what if people judge me? What if people reject me? But I can guarantee you, it's every time. It's not because of something that someone's actually saying in their life. It's because of is a reflection of how they are relating to the part of themselves that's scared. That part is saying, oh my God, what if people judge me? And what do? And they go, you don't matter. Shut up. I don't want to hear you. So they push it away. So they go work harder, study more, learn more, achieve more. But if you actually let that part come up and give it love in the way that I showed and explained, that part is going to feel loved. That part will feel acknowledged, seen, listened to. And in that way, you're meeting your own needs. And that's how you fill up the self love tank. And this is different from what a lot you see in the popular culture, where it's the sense of like, just love yourself, just take a bubble bath and do something that's good for you. That's nice. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, sure, but this goes way deeper. This is about actually healing the relationship that you have with all of yourself, because everything that you're lacking on the outside is a reflection of what you're lacking on the inside. If you're lacking money, you're not taking the actions to get the money. Why are you not taking the actions? Because there's some form of doubt or fear that you have that is preventing you from taking that action. If you don't have a great relationship, it's because you're either choosing the wrong people or you are the wrong person. You're not showing up as a kind, loving, courageous, warm person. You're holding back. And that's because of the relationship you have with yourself. And so this kind of shift empowers you beyond measure, and it gives you back the power that you've always been looking for outside of yourself. And then you realize that it has always been within you. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing.
Definitely, and thank you for this way of explaining how it is. The word acceptance came to my self acceptance, especially of the parts of us that we that are, let's say, the dark ones, or the ones that they are not
Yep.
showing.
Yep.
Um, Mario, there is, I have a couple, actually, there are two things more, and I want to start with something for someone listening right now, that I've had quite a few conversations with people, and they seem to be all in a similar situation, with which means external success. It's actually, you have experienced that as well, and so have I.
Yeah.
Um, Success without fulfillment, or with an element of disconnect, or something lacking, despite having ticked all the boxes. So, for someone listening who fits that criteria, what would you tell them? What's perhaps one courageous step they could take towards alignment, fulfillment, or anything else that might be on the other side of this?
Yeah. It's a great question. And what comes up for me there is a lack of fulfillment. I often see is a reflection of a lack of being true to yourself, because people are intelligent. We all have a natural intelligence that's speaking to us at all times, 24/7. Call it intuition. And this is pretty much what to piggyback on earlier, this is the voice of the heart. And it's been speaking to you this whole time. But you've been so busy chasing goals, trying to make it, trying to prove something to the world or to yourself, that you've been pushing away this voice. And I would say the first place that you have to start if you want to live a fulfilled life, you have to become quiet and you have to slow down and you have to start listening more than you're thinking. This is not a figuring it out process. And this is where most people struggle, because they're so, especially successful people in the material sense, they're so used to being in control of their lives, of figuring everything out in their own means, that they're always thinking. And this is not a thinking process. This is a listening, where you might take a pen and a journal and you ask a question. You're like, okay, what does a fulfilled life look like actually to me? And then you don't think about that, but you listen. You notice what comes up. This is okay. That kind of relationship. I want to live in this country. I want to work only one day a week. And all these things start coming up. And then you have a list, like you said. You have a list of things that you can actually go through. And you could apply this and you say, what would fulfillment look like in my relationships? And then you might get an answer that says, it would look like being true, being and speaking the truth, and actually making peace with people and resolving conflict and taking responsibility, maybe, and saying I forgive you, or saying I am sorry. And you'll be met with a list of items of things that you can do. And when that comes through, now you are moved back into a place of alignment. And once you're in a place of alignment, you think from a place of truth. And that's when you can restructure your life. That's when you can restructure your business or your career in a meaningful way. But if you don't do that, you'll be creating the next chapter from the persona that caused the chapter that's called I'm Not Fulfilled. And you're
Mhm.
just going to continue the same process that leads you to the same place. To conclude with that, one of my favorite quotes in the world by Albert Einstein, he said, "You can't fix a problem with the same level of thinking that created it." And this is what most of us are doing. We're trying to use this one here instead of stepping into this one.
That's great. Thank you. Mario, I know that we are towards the end of the conversation, but there is something I wanted for sure to get a comment from you, and it is you. You talk about forgiving ourselves, as you have it as the final step, and you have. I'm actually going to read the phrase because it is something that, in a way, it's comforting. In another way, it provokes a lot of thought. At least it did for me, and that's why I'm going to read that exactly as it is. I believe it is quite on its own. It will make sense. So you say your brain will tell you all kinds of false stories. One of the biggest being, I could have done something different. The fact that you acted the way you acted is all the proof you need to know that you couldn't have acted in any other way. Your mental, physical, and emotional state produced the only outcome possible. For me, when it makes sense. It is I know it is a more of a philosophical topic, perhaps, but I wanted a quick comment on that because in a way it is quite comforting when you realize that that's the only thing that I could have done,
Yeah.
and not getting stuck in the loop that, oh, if only I could have picked that phone call, or whatever else is that. So yeah, explain a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I came to this because I found myself stuck in blaming myself for so many choices that I made in the past and thinking back, what could I have done differently? I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have treated this person this way. I shouldn't have spent money on this person. I shouldn't have invested in this business. And what it really is that mental loop protects you from feeling the pain. If I stop blaming myself, I'm left with the pain of the experience. And this is why so many of us use blame, because it's more comfortable to then actually allow yourself to feel what happened there. And that's one. And the second thing, I came to it and I asked myself, why do I blame myself? And my rational explanation was because I want to do better in the future. I want to learn from my mistake. And so if I go, you shouldn't have done that, idiot, then this concludes, oh, this will remind me that I won't do it again in the future. But then I looked at that and I said, okay, has this mindset actually helped me in improving and not repeating the same mistakes? And I was like, actually, it's been making it worse. It's been far more difficult for me to act more righteous, better, healthier, whatever you want to call this, because
Yeah,
I've been carrying alongside with me the guilt and the shame. And when you're in a state of guilt and shame, you become risk averse, and courage cannot exist in that space. See, let's say you have a habit of lying to people, and lying to people has caused negative consequences, or you maybe have cheated on a partner. And so because of that, that came from a place of not wanting to speak the truth to the person. You think that if you speak the truth, you're never going to get what you actually want, and then the person will leave you. And so then you move into secrecy. And so then you look back and you realize, because I never spoke the truth, I ended up cheating on my partner. And then you go, oh, I'm such a scumbag. I shouldn't have done that. That was so bad. That was so wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. Now, guess what? You're carrying more of this negative energy with yourself, and you're going to go into the next relationship even more guarded. Like, oh my God, if they find this out about me, they're going to run away. I can't tell them that. I can't tell them that. They can find that out about me. So what do you end up doing again? Lying and likely cheating. And so you cannot be courageous. And so for me, I look back and I say, okay, if I want to do better, I got to be better. And so now I need to let go of what happened. And the only way I can let go is to actually stop entertaining this idea that anything could have happened differently. I could have done something different from what I did. And then I realized, yeah, wait a minute. The way that I thought, felt, And just my overall state of being and the knowledge that I had in that moment produced the only outcome. And how do I know it's the only outcome? Because it was the outcome. I can't change the past. The past is the past. And that just blew my mind open. I was like, oh my goodness. And then I said, all right, I will now put this to the test. And then I decided to forgive. I decided to forgive myself. And I felt this relief. And as I forgave, I was able to take different actions, shared courageously. Here's what I want. Here's who I am. And all of a sudden, I was met with acceptance. And I got the things out of relationships that I actually wanted. And I was like, oh my goodness, this actually works. I have been acting in a more in a way that's congruent with who I want to be, and it's because I learned to forgive myself. Yeah, this is how I got to that. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Well, it is not a question that can be fully answered, but yes, it did. Thank you, Mario. What is the best place for someone who has listened to us and wants to explore more and find out direct?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I would say the best way is connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there, pretty much Monday to Friday. Just find me, use my name, Mario Lanzarotti. And what I would say is, I'd love to hear, what did you think about the podcast? What did you learn? What was your biggest takeaway? And maybe, is there something that shifted for you just by listening to this podcast? And yeah, that's really my invitation. I'd love to hear from people.
Thank you. Mario, I also have two quick questions that I always ask my guests. And the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
Personal development to me means mastery. It means learning to master the art of living in alignment with who I am and with the life that I am creating.
And hypothetically, if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give him?
That's a tricky question, because if I give him a piece of advice, it would change the way he acts. And
Only
it
if he
would then
listens.
it would alter the course of my life, and it would change where I end up, and that would probably mean that you and I wouldn't have this conversation today. And so I will stay with my philosophy, and I'll say I wouldn't say anything. I'd say, keep going, bro. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes, make them, and maybe I would just say thank you. Thank you.
And I will also say thank you, Mario, for this captivating conversation. I want to wish you all the very best with your mission and making a difference. And I will leave it to you for your parting words and any message for the listener of this conversation. Any final parting thoughts?
Thank you, Agi. Really appreciate the conversation with you. And final parting thoughts. Listen to your heart. It already speaks to you. It's already revealing to you what's right for you. And surrendering to that voice, giving into that voice, will be the scariest thing that you're going to do in your life. And it will be the best thing that you're going to do in your life.